Alright, so we'll be looking at the 2021 past paper for the IT CXC examinations, and that's for January in the year of 2021, as I said earlier. Alright, so we'll be looking at the VLOOKUP question, which is worth 6 marks. So we have 5 to write the VLOOKUP function, and this is part B, or a second aspect that is connected to question 4 of F. Alright, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to revise the purpose of the VLOOKUP function. And the purpose of the VLOOKUP function is to look for a particular value and return the corresponding value. And that corresponding value is usually in the same row but a different column. Alright, so the question here, as you can see, we have worksheet 1 and worksheet 2. The question is based off worksheet 2, which is a modified version of worksheet 1. And they have asked us to complete the missing parameter in the VLOOKUP formula for cell B10 of worksheet 2 to find the amount of sales made during the month of March by the salesperson in cell A10. So we have cell A10, which is Clement Davis. So we're going to be looking for all the sales made by Clement Davis within the month of March. Alright, so Clement Davis would be what we're looking for, and of course the corresponding value would be his sales in the month of March. Alright, so there are 4 components to the VLOOKUP value, which is the VLOOKUP function rather, which is the lookup value, table array, column index number, and the range lookup. The lookup value is, as the word suggests, is exactly or actually what we're looking for. Alright, so we will be looking for Clement Davis within the table, and so our lookup value will be Clement Davis. The table array should include 2 things. 1, the table array must have our lookup value. And 2, the table array must also encapsulate our corresponding value. So it must have the lookup value and it must also house the corresponding value. The column index is the column in which, not the lookup value now, but the column in which the corresponding value is in. Alright, that's our column index number, and I'll bring some more light to that as we go through the question. And lastly, we have the range lookup. The range lookup, we type 0 or false for exact matches, 1 or true for approximate matches. And of course, we're going to see how that works while we're doing this question. Alright, so they have given us equal VLOOKUP, and so they only want the 4 parameters. And the VLOOKUP function, as I explained earlier, has 4 parameters: lookup value, table array, column index number, and the range lookup. Alright, so they have given us 1, 2, 3, 4 blank spaces to fill in our answers. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and insert equal VLOOKUP in cell B10 as they had suggested, and our lookup value will be in cell A10. Alright, so we're going to have equal VLOOKUP, then we're going to open our bracket. The first parameter is our lookup value. Alright, and they gave us that. The value we're interested in is Clement Davis. I'm using the actual Excel files. I'm going to reference Clement Davis. However, during the exam, you'd have to go ahead and search for Clement Davis in A10, or you could have used the reference they gave you in the actual question. Alright, so we're going to be looking for Clement Davis. Secondly, we need our table array, and again the table array must have 2 components. It must have our lookup value and it must also have the corresponding value. So our corresponding value is in the month of March, and of course Clement Davis is over here in the first column. So we're going to go and reference from A3 all the way to D7. I'm going to reference all the way to E7 because I realize that part 5 of the question requires that we reference all of the values. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and reference from A3 to E7. You might be wondering, why didn't you just reference rows and January? You don't need that. Usually you reference values instead of the column headings. All right, so that's going to be my reference, comma, and now I need to reference or to find my column index number. Again, the column index number is a column in which the corresponding value lies. So I'm going to go ahead and count 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I'm looking for the month of March, and that's my fourth column because I need the value that corresponds to Clement Davis within the month of March. So I'm going to go ahead and click 4. I need to clear up something here. Say for argument's sake, I did not reference from A3. I reference from January. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and reference January, February, March. Excel would tell me here that even though I still want the value within March, that they don't know what I'm talking about when I say my column index number is 4, because I have no, as you can see, reference 3 columns. So I have 1, 2, 3. So my column index number, which is the month of March, would now be 3. I say that to say this, that the column index number is always based on the table array. So the table array that you would have selected previously would now must have that particular column index number. All right. So even though I do have this column here with the names within my file, I would not have referenced it, and so I must select 3 for the month of March. All right. So the column index number is always based on the reference. Even though I still have 4 columns in this case, I did not reference the row labels or the names here, so I would not include it. All right. So please bear that in mind. The column index number is always based off the table array. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and reference all I have here. And so the response I need is in column 4. And I'm going to go ahead and choose false because I'm looking for an exact match. And as you can see, my answer would be 1600, which is the number of sales for Clement Davis within the month of March. All right, so that would be the corresponding values. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete false, which I deliberately, by the way, wrote it with uppercase letters. If you write it with lowercase letters, Excel will just correct it. All right. So as you can see, they have put it back in uppercase letters. So you always want to keep your range lookup in uppercase letters. If I did not choose a range lookup, the default value is actually true, and we're going to look at why. All right. So for example, I chose true. In this case, Excel would still return 1600. And even though I'm actually looking for, in this case, for an approximate match, I'm going to get 1600 because Clement Davis was found exactly how I wrote it. If I go ahead now and edit and I say I take out the space. So even though I have the same names, Clement Davis, in these cases, they are different. One has a space and one doesn't, right? And as you can see, it has changed to the month of March for Charles Johnson. So though, because Excel did not find an exact match, it looked for an approximate match. And since Charles Johnson has C in the name, it just returns. It skips Albert, Kathleen Albert, and just gives me Charles Johnson, Johnson Charles. All right. So that's something you want to make note of. If I just remove the false, it's still gonna give me 1125 because Excel has a range lookup value, a default range lookup value of true. So you always want to specify. You don't want Excel to just go ahead and choose an approximate match for you. All right. So it's giving me a little error. All right. So that's it for part A of the question. I'm not sure why it's giving me an error here. All right, I'll look at that later on. So part 5 of the question says that state the change that should be made to parameter 3 of IV above in order to obtain the grand total for the salesperson in cell A10. we had 4 parameters. We had the VLOOKUP value, the table array, and they're asking us what should I do with the column index number, which is my third parameter, to now give me the grand total. So I need to reference column 5 instead of column 4. So I don't need Marge anymore. Still looking for the person in cell A10, which is Clement Davis. However, I'm going to be looking for the grand total of Clement Davis. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just going to input all of this again. So referencing cell A10. Oh, I know what the problem was because I didn't make the corrections with the name here. Alright, so it was giving me some problems. So I have parameter 1, 2, and 3. And so for my column reference number, I'm going to choose 5 instead of 4. And I'm going to press enter. And as you can see, it gave me 4,685, which is the grand total for Clement Davis. Alright, and so if you had that, you'd have gotten your 6 marks. I hope you learned something today. Keep practicing, keep studying. Okay, bye-bye.